In this video, I'm going to explain to you how to negotiate high-paying salaries, right? $100,000 and more. And you learn from my experience. If you're new to the channel, I've worked for over a decade at top investment banks such as Goldman Sachs and Morgan Stanley, everything from intern to analyst and director level. And I've had successful job applications where I've negotiated salaries for myself at places like JP Morgan and Citigroup, Big Four consultancy firms, KPMG, PwC, hedge funds like Arrowgrass, and private equity firms like CVC. So through this, we're going to learn from a few different examples here. And if you're interested in my coaching services, there's a link in the description. I'll be happy to help you with that. So let's go through this and learn from myself as a career coach, and also Joshua Fluke in this example, where he's going to talk through some of the mind games that get played around job offer negotiations.
We're thrilled to offer you two options. Option A is $65K a year with unlimited PTO and flexible hours, or option B, $70K, but you only get 2 weeks of PTO. And suddenly you feel like you're on a game show. You're sitting there thinking to yourself, oh man, do I go for the money or do I go for the freedom, the unlimited PTO? But it feels like if you don't pick right now, they're just going to take the whole offer off the table. What's actually happening here is salary psychology, and this is called the decoy offer, because you see what's actually happening here, right? This isn't a choice between these two offers they're giving you. This is a trap, and they've already won the negotiation because you're doing exactly what they want. Comparing two terrible options instead of questioning if either one of those is good enough for you. They've already won. The psychological trick here is called the decoy effect, and it leverages perceived autonomy. So let me break down what that means. Essentially, when you're presented with two options, one of which is designed to be slightly worse, it makes the other option seem like an automatic win. The company's already designed both of those options, but here's the thing. Both of those options have already been engineered to benefit the company. They've already done the math. From their perspective, it's like a choice that feels generous, but hey, if they pick the other one with fewer benefits, that's even better. And the best part from the company's perspective is that you feel like you're in control. And this is what's called perceived autonomy. By giving you options, they trick your brain into thinking, oh, I have power here. They've given me some choices. But really, you're just choosing between two outcomes they've already planned. And then you're not even negotiating anymore. You're playing their game. And you ever notice when they give you these choices, there's this weird pressure to answer right away? That's not an accident. That's by design, to create artificial urgency. It's kind of like when you're shopping online on Amazon and you see only 2 left in stock. That one-click buy button becomes real dangerous. Maybe you don't want, it could be that you don't want either option. Maybe you deserve $80K with great benefits and PTO. But because they framed this conversation so well, so carefully, you're just kind of stuck thinking, I guess $70K isn't so bad, especially when you compare it to the other offer. Now you're negotiating against yourself between their two terrible offers. And this works so well because once you start comparing the options, your brain's locked in. And this is called cognitive narrowing. Instead of evaluating your worth in the market, you're zooming in on which option feels less bad. It's sort of the same reason you feel proud of getting 10% off a product that was already 10% overpriced. You think that you're winning, but you're not even playing.
Now, what he's just explained, it reminds me of rule 3 of my career code, and there's a link in the description for this course, right? Where I talk about how you need to protect your name, not the job, right? You need to protect your name and your value, right? You shouldn't be jumping for any job or any company just for the sake of it. You need to think through things carefully. And of course, it depends on personal situations. You might be subject to a layoff and you're desperately looking for your next job, but you can't let them undersell you, right? You can't undersell yourself. That's why you have to protect your name and the reputation you have within the industry, and not by accepting lowballing job offers and pay just for the sake of it, right? You have to make clear power moves, staying true to yourself, living by your own code, and not following other people in the industry who just follow the stage script and might just accept any ridiculous low-paying offer that they might get in the industry. So we're going to go through this in a bit of detail, what he's saying here. So firstly, he talks about the decoy offer. Now, when you have mind games in the workplace, typically you think the mind games start on day 1, but the mind games become apparent on day 0, which would be before you start the job, right? You're doing job interviews, you're discussing the job offer, the salary and things like that with HR, hiring manager, and then you start picking up on the mind games they're playing with you. Here he talks about the decoy offer, whether you have maybe 2 job offers that are okay, given the particular job opportunities you have available. But what you have to understand is when they have a decoy offer, like he's saying here, they might give you 2 options, but they're both not great deals for yourself, right? They'll be great for the company, and they've probably done the calculations at the back end in terms of maybe paying you less and giving you more time off, or paying you more and giving you less time off. Either way, it works out the same for the company, right? So that's what you have to think about it, right? You have to think about how the company's giving you narrow options. This company's really trying to control your freedom and flexibility and your financial ability to climb up in life and your social mobility, and it's never really in your best interest. They're still trying to use you and exploit you. And the whole concept of perceived autonomy, having a set of rigged options, right? What is the solution here, right? You should have an abundance mentality, right? Which means you have infinite job options for yourself. If you're not familiar with the term abundance mentality, something that comes up in the red pill sphere, if you want to call it that, whereby the whole concept is, rather than thinking, oh, you only have a few dating options, or you only have one person you can be in a relationship with, and you have to be stuck in a situation that might not be ideal for you. You should have a mentality of abundance, right? You live in a big world. There's many companies, many jobs, many dating options for yourself, and you have to apply the same rule for you in the job market. And I understand times can be tough sometimes. There's a slow job market right now due to layoffs and investing in growth and things like that. But you have to think about what will give you a permanent long-term stability in a high-paying career for yourself. And sometimes it might mean making a sidestep in your career, or pivoting your career, or accepting maybe not the best option right now, but long-term then play will work out for yourself, right? You have to make sure that you're building great options for yourself in the long term and not selling yourself short, right? If, for example, you can't get this job, or they're giving you a bad deal in terms of salary, you might want to think of, okay, well, temporarily I'll go into the contracting market. I'll become work time until I get the role I'm looking for, rather than selling yourself short. So it really does depend on personal circumstances, which I can help with through career coaching. The link is in description, right? You don't want to box yourself in, right? You don't want to think it's now or never. I have to accept this job offer quickly, otherwise they're going to give this job to someone else. You should think it through carefully, and I'll give through this video and a few future videos about salary negotiations. You're never really under as much time pressure as they tell you they are. Typically, they'll give you a job offer, say, oh, we need your response by end of the week. Now, any job recruiting process, typically nowadays, it lasts several weeks or several months, right? They might want to speed things up slightly, but it takes time, right? And what I mean by that is they might think you want you to start as soon as possible, but there's a delay in the background checks. There's a delay in interviewing yourself or other candidates. They built in the process that there's always going to be some delays. So when they start rushing you, like, oh, we answer within 2 days of whether you're going to accept this job offer or not, you can say, well, I need a week to consider this. I've had interviews elsewhere. This is my number one option, and I intend on moving forward with it, but I just need some time to think. Don't let them have all the cards in their hand and manipulate you. If they're really looking to hire you, they can give you a few extra days. It's not going to kill their business that they need to hire someone for a role and it takes a few extra days or a week to do it. So these are the things. Don't let them rush you and think, oh, this is the best option, I have to take it right now. There's a lot of artificial urgency, right? They say there's always a rush here. I would say don't buy the bait. You don't have to pressurize yourself, and really consider coming within, like I said, a week at least, right? If the recruitment process takes several months, they won't mind adding an extra week of you thinking it through, right? If you suddenly agree to something, give the perception that you're desperate for the job. You might be keen for the job, you might be eager for the job, but you're not desperate for them. Also, what you could do is, if you accept the job offer on paper, maybe sign the agreement, and it takes several weeks or months before the job offer starts and you start working there, continue other interviews you're doing, or leverage this job offer you have in your hand to accelerate other interviews, right? You can reach out to other companies you're interviewing with and saying, I've got a potential job offer on the table. I'd like to work for your company. You got to play these options against each other, right? And say, well, I've got a job offer from another company, but can I continue interviewing you? Would it be possible to accelerate or move forward with the interview process so I can know if the potential opportunity for me here? And this is how you leverage one job offer to negotiate a higher pay for another job opportunity you might have by reaching the final round of the interviews quite quicker, right? So you have to think about playing these off from each other. And then this is the thing, you can always pull out of a job offer that you agree to, a job contract you agree to, just before the start date. Typically that's okay, and you don't have to give a notice period. You can just it's not going to work there, at least before you start. You can even do things like that. Of course, it might burn a bridge and be difficult, but I know instances, to give you an example, whereby job offers were leveraged against each other. I knew, and just a hypothetical example, I'll change some of the details here, but I knew someone who's working at Goldman Sachs, for example, and they had a job offer from HSBC. That job offer was a 20% pay rise, which was decent for what they were looking for. And at the same time, they were interviewing other companies, and what they were doing, they were interviewing at Bank of America. And then Bank of America, they managed to leverage not only their current job at Goldman Sachs and that salary, but the higher job offer they had at HSBC to get the high paying job at Bank of America. So they, in effect, went from a potential 20% pay rise at HSBC to a 40% pay rise by moving to Bank of America. And these are the type of tactics you can use when you have two job offers or one job offer you can leverage to another opportunity. This is really how you can really drastically push forward in your life and your financial freedom plans through making a lot of money. So you have to be careful and this way in a way that benefits you, right? There's a phrase, in love and war, but everything's fair in love, war, and business. And this is a business. Your employee looking to maximize the amount of money you can get, and the companies are looking to extract as much work as possible from you without paying you the highest wage, right? And that comes down to the next point, cognitive narrowing. Now, what do we mean by that? They might fool you into thinking you have limited options. Like I say, you don't have limited options. And if you know your skill level, the market rate, the industry you're in, you can keep up with, salary rates, which I covered in other videos about how to do a bit of research for yourself. What type of jobs are other recruiters reaching out to you for? What is your real market rate for how much pay you can demand, right? I know at certain times in my career earlier on where I was underpaid compared to others at a similar level, and I made some career moves that would benefit me to increase my salary. So if you know your worth, know your options, have leverage, you can always job hop also, and you can job hop later, right? So maybe you take this opportunity, it's not the best thing, and then you plan on staying there for 3 years, but after 2 years, the job market gets a bit better and you can move to another job, right? This is the thing. It all comes down to timing and your long-term play. Sometimes you want to push, sometimes you want to hold. You should consider the whole deal, right? Not just, okay, well, this is what I've got right now. The salary is just one piece also, right? So you might have other things like growth, lifestyle, perks, the future upside. So for example, they give you more remote work, flexible working. They're willing to pay for you to complete a professional qualification like an MBA or another certification you're looking for. So you should think about the overall job satisfaction. Things like job responsibilities, the location, travel requirements, promotion opportunities, things like that. And then the other thing, you need to think through the timing of the offers. Like I say, if you've got one job offer in hand, you might want to speed up the other places you're interviewing by telling them, I've got a potential job offer, but I want to continue interviewing with you. But if we can just speed up that process so you can know if I'm a good fit for your company or not, right? So that's how you can ensure you're not rushed into decisions by taking a week to think over any job offer and continuing to prioritize and push forward with other job interviews that you're looking to progress with. So this is the thing, try to align your timelines in a way that works for you rather than being at the whims of other company processes, slowing you down essentially, or expecting you to speed up by snapping their fingers and telling you to come up with a decision. I would say also considering about the way in which you negotiate. Sometimes you just genuinely have a good offer and you don't want to push them and be unfair in a sense of demanding too much. So sometimes there's not a need for negotiation. It depends on the personal circumstances. Think about what really matters and what you really prioritize. I know increasingly people aren't prioritizing money. Of course, inflation's high, you want to get a high salary, but many people are prioritizing their ability to work remotely, and people are willing to accept maybe a 5% or 10% decline in their salary if they can work from home because of their massive lifestyle benefits, health benefits, the ability to maximize and do a few chores during the day so they can have their evenings to themselves after working and working from home at their day job and doing some chores around the house. So you have to think about these things, like what really matters to you. Sometimes it's not always money, right? And if you reach the discussions around money and they're not going to negotiate any extra higher pay for you, then you should think about, oh, can I say, well, I'm keen to work for your company. We can't increase the salary any further, but is there any wording we can put in the contract or anything we can agree to in terms of working from home flexibility for whatever reasons? Maybe you have kids, things like that. You want to pick them up from school, and then you might say, well, okay, we can't negotiate salary. We can't give you the higher pay you're looking for, but we'll work from home on Thursday and Friday, things like that. Same time, you don't want to push the company too far, so to the point they get annoyed. Just think about negotiating where it counts. And then another thing is staying at the negotiating table, right? Sometimes they'll say we need to think it through. So sometimes it does take a bit of time. If they say no today, it could be a yes tomorrow. There could be changes in people, budgets, internal approval. So keeping the door open and maintaining the relationship is the best option to play the long-term negotiation game. Another thing, and the last point I want to mention, is maintaining a sense of perspective, right? Many people, they want to quickly get into any job, whatever it would be. You have to pick not just the right job, but the right job offer, right? Is it giving you everything you need? And Like I said, leverage and optionality does depend on the job market, how many other people are looking for jobs, people might be willing to accept that lower pay, things like that. You know, the bigger picture, what's the long-term play for you? If you're at a job that might not be ideal for 2 to 3 years, maybe it does make sense, because over 5 years, you might have job hopped at that point, and career path. What about the company? Maybe it's not the best paying job or the biggest brand name company, but the work culture matches with maybe your more relaxed work culture. Think about the boss and the team you're with. Are you going to get on with your co-workers based on interviews you might have had with them? Is this work you enjoy? And these are the things, right? You need to think about making sure you're pursuing your life in a direction that works for you, rather than just, oh, what's the highest pay? What name company can I work for? Things like that. So we went through the decoy offers, perceived autonomy, artificial urgency, cognitive narrowing, knowing your value, knowing the market rate and what is the current state of the industry and people hunting for jobs, and being very careful with timing and finding out what you exactly want. So these are the type of things that could help you with salary negotiations, job offers, landing the jobs you're actually looking for. And I can help with you this coaching. So helping you secure promotions faster, helping you with your job search process. So there's a coaching services I provide, there's a link in description. And then also there's a course called the Career Code where I cover some of these points in a lot more detail. So feel free to check that out, and I'll see you in the next video.